Hi, so this is Ray's Rant for the Masses, and right now I am doing a Terminator franchise review, as you can tell from the title. I'm doing this because the new Terminator Salvation came out, and I just finished watching all the Terminators. Get a marathon, refresh my memory for the movies. You can also watch this and do the same thing because I'm gonna kind of address the story as well as other things, problems with the franchise or whatever. So obviously we got to start at the beginning, which is Terminator 1. Or The Terminator, directed by James Cameron. Now, this film I love like no other movie. It's the first of its kind, and it's very revolutionary when it comes down to filmmaking itself as well as storytelling and other such things. When it comes down to the film itself, I respect it more than most other films, just because of the movie itself and how it was meant to be a B movie, and that at the time that nobody really expected this movie to be what it actually has become to this day, as well as the story itself was way beyond its time. To address the story, if you haven't seen it, which you probably have, it's what ends up happening is that robots take over. They cause a nuclear war between the countries. Well, not really, but they end up blowing up all the countries. And what ends up happening is that they try to eliminate the human race. So what ends up happening is that whoever's left over is left to fight the robots. After they fight the robots, while they're fighting the robots, John Connor rises to power, and so it's been said, kills off the enemy, and boom, the human race wins. So the robots decide that before they can lose, they decided to send back a Terminator to go back, kill John Connor before he's even born by killing his mother before she has conceived the child, thus ending the war. Ending the war before it even starts. Now, the story itself is genius, just because as a film, back in that day, doing a low production film, you eliminate doing whole war sequences way beyond budget. You don't have to do things that look completely fake. Back then they didn't have CGI, so they relied solely on what they could do as within the confines of what their budget was. So that's why I respect it a lot, especially because some of the scenes, it's just like, this is a classic scene and it didn't take that much money to make, as well as it was more devoted on story than action, but the action was brilliantly directed in its own right. So it's like, it's stepped up the game for action movies, and ever since then nobody has really been able to meet that standard in which they can tell a brilliant sci-fi story as well as have enough action to keep it going so long. So that's why I respect the film a lot. As for the way the story goes, then comes Terminator 2, one of the most expected films of all time, or at least has to be up there. When it comes to Terminator 2, everybody demanded it, but it took so long. With Arnold Schwarzenegger doing Conan the Barbarian and whatever, they decided, boom, let's do the sequel. Terminator 2 comes out in 1991, and this film was brilliant on itself, just because it was one of the few sequels that either met or passed expectations for a sequel. Usually the sequel is always a letdown. This one actually met it, to the point where people actually seen this one more than they seen the first one, even favor it preferably over the first one. I, on the hand, kindly, respectfully disagree. I love the performances. I love that Linda Hamilton was back, but I did not like who they casted for John Connor. I forgot his first name, but I know his last name is Furlong. Now, I did not like him because he was like a whiny little brat, and I felt like, are you serious? You're like this little rebellious little whiny kid, especially his the way he delivered his lines and such. But as action scenes go, as well as Arnold Schwarzenegger going from playing the same character but going from being a villain to a hero, is amazing how only two people in I would say the world can play the actual same character and be the hero and the villain at the same time, such as the story of Darth Vader in Star Wars, or Michael Corleone in Godfather. Then comes Arnold Schwarzenegger in Terminators. So the thing that was great about it was that the action scenes were better, but the problem was that during production they made a lot of mistakes. missing bullet wounds, as well as the truck scenes, motorcycle jumping off the ramp, and you can see that it's a ramp, and then the list goes on. The movie is very flawed when it comes down to what's the word? I forgot the word. Well, when it comes down to each other shot, you see things that just like happen and then just disappear or whatever the case may be. But I did love the movie a lot. I mean, it's one of my favorites, but I still prefer one over this one. So I would give this one a 9, where I give the first one 9.5. Now, when it comes down to the story, what ends up happening is that they send back another Terminator to go and kill John Connor. But John Connor gets smart enough to take a robot, make him work for the good side, retune him, and then send the Terminator back to defend him and his mother. So what ends up happening is that the two robots are fighting while cyborgs, while he's defending John Connor. So Arnold Schwarzenegger becomes the good guy. Now, what's really great about the story is that it was a justified reason to continue on for a sequel, as with the robot hand from the first one developing technology that would later lead into the war, and how John Connor and his mom must stop Cyberdyne from becoming the robot the cyborg creating industry that it was. So it was smart, and it said that we had a choice, that it's not a predestined future, but it did cause a lot of problems, because of the simple fact is that if you think along the lines of it, you have used in the first one, it caused this like whole thing where if you sit down and really think about it, what Reese says is that that the future is brought up of many different timelines. So when you send someone back, how do you know you're sending them to the right timeline? And if so, are you does you changing this thus making it a different timeline? So if you send Reese and the robot back into one timeline, did you sprout off another one as alternate to the one that you live now? And if you send another two robots, would that sprout off another one? So if you pay attention, maybe each film might not even be according to the same timeline, which would explain why John Connor is a different person in each film. But then again, that's kind of like an excuse. So thing is that there is a lot of mistakes in the franchise itself, along with like time travel and going back into a different time, sprouting off alternate futures, alternate past, which wasn't really singly addressed in any of the films, just because it's so much action and so much stuff going on that it's not just a time travel film, but it's also war against the robots and other such things. So it's kind of like you can compare it to Back to the Future, where Back to the Future actually sat down and said, well, listen, this is what's going on. Where in this one, it doesn't really explain the whole time travel thing. It does explain like how you get 2 and 4 and whatever, but it doesn't explain how the technology was created, what purpose did it create, and if so, what happens when you create this alternate timeline, and if so, why defend? Like the question is that if you send back a robot to go kill you in the past and it causes an alternate timeline, would you disappear from your timeline? If not, then why send it back anyway? Because then that means that you lose in another timeline, but since this is your past, why does it really matter? So there's many things that are flawed with it. Then it comes down to Terminator 3, which I'm going to address in my next movie review. So this is just about Terminator 1 and Terminator 2. Like I said before, I give Terminator 1 a 9.5, and I give Terminator 2 a 9. So I will address the Terminator 3 and a question that I've been thinking in my head to ask you guys, you fellow YouTubers and subscribers, and I will also discuss what I think about Terminator Salvation. I haven't seen it, but that's what I'll discuss after. So catch you later.